The ground rumbles. It starts as a slight vibration that tickles your senses. You feel a bit. Let's start again. The ground rumbles. It starts as a slight vibration that tickles your senses. You feel a bit off balance, but quickly the rumbling grows stronger. It builds and becomes so intense you can't tell if the world is shaking or you. Your very core no longer feels the tempo of your own heart and instead sings this new song of the earth. Listen. Come, gather together, but be silent. Stop your search for comfort in cold steel and placid gold. Cease that deafening pounding of nails you use to fasten your false sense of security. Your Lord speaks. Since the beginning and until the end of time, your Lord speaks. The earth has heard and listens as it trembles before God's voice. Though the overwhelming enormity crashes over us like waves, rumbles through our veins, sweeps through and around us with enough force to bring even the universe to its knees, we should not fear. The same power, the same God who is beginning and end, who speaks life into the earth, also speaks life into us. Your Lord has called you from the ends of the earth and said, "You are my servant. I have chosen you and not cast you off. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God." It is difficult at times to understand the depths of which we are in relationship with God. The stressors and pains in our lives easily distract us from the very foundations of which we exist. In this incredibly powerful scripture, we enter into a courtroom scene in which God has demanded our attention so that we may prepare ourselves for the times ahead. During the time of this scripture, the Jewish people had been through generations of oppression under the Persian Empire. They have been systematically and consistently dehumanized and limited in their ability to thrive. As outcasts who were seen as just bothersome and expected to slowly die out, the Jewish people continued to survive and did what they could to hold their identity by abiding by their laws and governances in secret. However, times were beginning to change. There is finally hope of returning to the promised land after banishment to Babylon. Cyrus, the ruler of Persia, is allowing the Jewish people to return home to their homeland as long as they show loyalty to the Persian Empire. The scripture is being written in a time where there are major transitions about to be executed, and they were on the brink of restoring themselves to their home. When I read the scripture, I feel so empowered by the language, the poetic nature that feeds into the strength of these words from thousands of years ago. But when I look at society today, I can't help but feel a bit disheartened. It's particularly stressful as we enter into a time when everything is supposed to be the cheeriest and the happiest season. Although it can be nice to be surrounded by positivity, it's often too shallow to reach the worries that sit in my heart. Our society has developed into one where we can now have access to any information at the drop of a hat. We can be more aware of the world more than we have ever been before. So much so that we are overwhelmed by problems, dealing by not only the problems of the world, but we are also dealing with our own problems, our personal problems, dealing with our mental health, our wellness, our stress, but also the problems of our communities being affected by policy changes, corruption, and systematic oppression, which doesn't even begin to touch the larger problems of the world that feel almost completely hopeless because our individual actions are just so small in the face of global warming, spreading disease, and the mystery of a rapidly growing globalization of the world. How can we even think to cope with all this knowledge and still function the way that we do? We don't. We choose willful ignorance. We don't watch the news. We ignore or outright avoid the things that make us even slightly uncomfortable. We make excuses. Well, I didn't know, so how was I supposed to do anything? Well, that isn't really something that I should get involved in. Oh, I'm so tired and busy, I don't have time. I'm not very good with people. I don't have a lot to offer. Oh, how easy it is to ignore and push away the problems of the world. These issues are not a new topic of discussion, but they are always present in our lives as we figure out how to be in the world. The writer of Isaiah reminds us how we are to deal with these issues. There is a greater power at hand, and we are in relationship with that power. And we are being called beyond ourselves to be a part of it. If we look at what the scripture is telling us, it is a rallying call. The Jewish people who have been oppressed and stepped on and told that they would never be good for anything are being told that they are enough. They are worthy. They are chosen. Look again at your God that has been with you always. The idols you see do not bring you the security or safety you need. Your power comes from a deeper source. God has demanded our attention and looked at us and said, "Do not be afraid. I have chosen you and not cast you off." God's power extends beyond, through, and within all that is. The enormity of God is present in all things, is with us, and supports us. When we look again at the state of which we have been living, and take a moment to find where we intentionally are in relationship with God, we may find it a bit lacking. I myself struggle with connecting with God on a regular basis and feeling that I can really make a difference in the world. We often allow our insecurities and our fear and shame to keep us from putting forth the work and effort towards carrying out our calling. We also allow the weight of the world to sit upon our shoulders and think there is literally nothing my hands can do to change anything. Here's the good news, church. You don't have to carry anything by yourself. God doesn't just call people to do certain tasks. God calls us to work and be together. Even in Scripture, God calls the Jewish people as a whole body. Our identity as a community strengthens us. Our willingness to be and work with God allows us to better work with each other. So the next time we're feeling overwhelmed by the pressure and problems facing us, do not be afraid. The same power, the same God who is beginning and end, who speaks life into the earth, also speaks life into us. As we enter this Christmas season, let us remember that even when we have been pushed down, stepped on, felt insignificant, everything we are and all that surrounds us is God. And through God, we have the opportunity to be inspired and to make a difference not only in our lives, but the lives of others. Go forth in the knowledge that you are enough, you are worthy, and you are chosen. Amen.